Thanks for joining us today on Polk Salad.
We've started the season and had two great shows.
Great idea. That's smart.
And we've just settled in quite nicely.
Welcome to Polk Salad. It's 2018 and we've got a great show for you this January. We have 3 guests, all involved in the arts. Plenty of things for you to be doing here in the community. You'll enjoy it and you'll be wanting to get out and go to these fun things. And we're here with Paul Doellinger. Welcome, Paul. Nice
Thank
to
you.
have
It's good to be here, Susan. Thank you.
I'm so glad you came on. We're talking about the arts this month, and you are involved in Willamette Valley Horizons Orchestra?
New Horizons Orchestra, Willamette Valley New Horizons Orchestra.
Would you tell us a little
We're
about
part of the International New Horizons Bands and Orchestra organization. This group was started maybe 25 years ago by Dr. Roy Ernst, who was a professor of music at the Eastman School of Music.
Ooh.
And he did a project, Can Older Adults Learn How to Play a Musical Instrument? The prevailing theory till that time was that if you didn't learn how to play by 6th grade, it's too late. Well, he learned that not only can older adults learn how to play, but it has many advantages for them. It gives people who are alone a social community to come around with.
Yeah.
We perform. We practice much better than junior high kids, but nobody has to urge us on to practicing. We do it ourselves. And it keeps our brains alert, like working Sudokus to push off memory loss and things like that. So now there are several hundred New Horizons bands and orchestras around the country.
Good, good. How long has the one in Willamette Valley been going?
We started this around 2013, I think. We started, it was started mainly by a woman named Bobby Gates, and she and I played together in the New Horizons band in Corvallis.
Oh.
And my wife plays a violin. She took it up in her later years also. And Bobby Gates thought we ought to have an orchestra. So we started this orchestra here in Monmouth. And when we first started, we had maybe 6 or 8 people. One night we had 4 people show up for rehearsal. And we thought, is this going to make it or not? It did. And now we have about 20 people in the orchestra.
Good.
We've lost some and we've gained some. We've got a pretty steady group right now.
Well, I noticed that you had open auditions. So the call went out in the latest Monmouth Notes.
Right.
That comes with the bill. And no auditions for
No
you?
auditions.
No auditions.
We take people wherever they are.
Okay.
One lady said that when she first came, she could play the first note of every measure, and then she'd play 2 notes a measure on her violin, and then 3, and now 4 notes on a 4/4 piece of
good.
music, so she's playing pretty well.
Good.
We have some people who were in the band in Corvallis and want to learn a new instrument. One lady said she'd play the clarinet, she always wanted to play a violin. So she came with her violin. Another man played clarinet and wanted to play a cello. He started off renting a cello. He then bought a cello, which is a pretty heavy commitment.
That is.
So he plays in the band in Corvallis on Thursdays on the clarinet, and on Monday nights when we rehearse here in the Senior Center in Monmouth, plays the cello.
Wow. So you have a performance coming up, and
Right.
that's going to be here at the university.
At Smith Hall,
Smith Hall.
Recital Hall on the 22nd, Monday night. That's the night we normally rehearse.
And what pieces will you be playing?
We're playing several pieces. It's themes from operas. It's not a whole opera, but it's themes
Sure.
from various operas. And we've been working on them for several weeks. Some of them are easier and some of them are harder, but we feel like we're ready to go with them.
Now, your instrument is the clarinet. Do you also conduct?
No, I just play the clarinet.
So how do you keep time then with everybody?
The conductor,
you do have a
we do have a conductor.
Okay.
Her name is Allie Greenwell. She's a music teacher at Turner High School. And she has been our conductor since we started.
Good.
And she's a young lady. She treats us all like grandparents, and we just have a wonderful relationship with her.
That's nice.
And I think she enjoys conducting us. as opposed to all the little kids that she's conducting all day,
Sure,
it's nice to
sure.
conduct adults that she doesn't have the discipline problems
Right.
quite as badly.
Well, maybe discipline. I don't know. I know some folks that
Right.
are pretty rowdy in that age set that I'm coming into. Tell me how long you've been here in Monmouth
I moved here in 2006.
and
I
what brought you here.
Okay, I was the pastor of Faith Lutheran Church here
Mm-hmm.
in Monmouth. Prior to that, I was at a church in Western New York,
Oh.
and we had a little musical ensemble. And I'd played a recorder for a number of years, the instrument that kids learn to play on in junior high. And one night, a man who played the clarinet said, "You know, you could easily make the switch from a recorder to a clarinet." So he let me borrow his extra clarinet and began giving me lessons. Then when we moved here in 2006, I began taking lessons from Martin Sobelman, a teacher in Salem, and I'm still taking lessons. I'm his longest duration pupil and his oldest pupil.
Good.
And I've often thought, what I've spent on clarinet lessons, I probably could have bought a boat for that amount of money, but I'm having more fun, and I don't have to store it.
absolutely.
I don't have to store it. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're so passionate about that. You have family in the area and grandchildren as well.
Right.
So I read something in the paper about your grandchildren being in the Apple Box Theater.
Right,
So
they've acted with that every summer.
the arts is a big part of the family then.
It is. We have season tickets to the Oregon Symphony and to the Pinnacle Theater. And some summers we've driven down to Ashland to see the plays down there.
Good.
And we enjoy music and theater.
Good. Well,
much.
this is what the whole program is about. It's a nice thing to see people be passionate about something and let your creative juices flow when it's the dead of winter.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, that's nice, nice. So you have been at how many churches have you pastored? You say New York. What other places?
I feel like I've kind of moved on upward arc. I was in Florida and then Atlanta and then Pittsburgh and Buffalo. And when I was 62, instead of retiring, I chose to reposition to come out here to Oregon. My son teaches here at Western Oregon University. We're close to him and the grandkids.
Good.
Another son moved to Corvallis, so our family is pretty well in the Oregon area.
Good, good. And so you say you failed retirement
I did. Failed it twice.
twice. So are you acting, you're acting interim at this
Well,
time?
the first thing I did after I retired, I became a spokesperson for an ecumenical charity called Food for the Poor. Then we raise funds for the poor in Caribbean countries. And I retired from that last winter, the end of 2016.
Okay.
And then a few months after that, I was asked to be the interim pastor at Shepherd of the Valley Lutheran Church in Corvallis. So I've been there till they get a new pastor.
Okay. This isn't the only thing you do. You're also very active in Rotary.
And I'm the president of the Rotary Club this
Yes,
year.
yeah.
The Monmouth Independence Rotary Club does a lot of good things. We're responsible for the 4th of July parade every year here between Monmouth and Independence, and that's one of the big 4th of July events.
Did you have a favorite, well, I wouldn't say float, but entry? Has there been, I know you've been a judge.
I've been a judge a few years, and that is the most difficult job in the
I
world
imagine.
because so many of these floats are just simply outstanding.
And the children, too.
Yeah.
You know, you get
Yeah.
the kids on their bicycles, and that's fun.
It's a great parade. It's
Yeah.
a great parade. A lot of fun for everyone.
How many hours do you put in preparing for that parade, do you think?
There's a lot of work that goes into it ahead of time. We have a 2-person committee of Rotarians who alternate years being the head honcho for the parade, and ultimately almost everybody in the Rotary Club who's able
Sure.
to comes out on the morning of July 4th, and we start at about 7:30 getting everything set up. And now the parade used to line up in the parking lot where the new aquatic center is. That was
Oh.
taken from us, so we line up right down Monmouth Street, and that works great.
Oh,
it
good.
works great.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. I love it. It was one of the first things we did when we came here. We moved to the area July 1.
Oh,
and
right
July
away.
4, it was lots of fun. And the former host of this show, Terry Gregory, invited my husband and me on at the time, and it was a hot, hot day, and it was so much fun. We had a great time. So I'm glad you're affiliated with that.
Great.
And this gives you something to do in the winter because you're so busy in
Well,
the
we've been
summer.
for the past 2 years. We've been the orchestra has been performing in the Main Street Park Auditorium on the 3rd of July.
Okay.
We are kind of an opening act for the big
good.
orchestra that plays later on,
good,
and we've done
good.
that.
What pieces do you play? Patriotic?
Patriotic songs for the 4th of July parade. Yeah.
Sure, so everybody probably keeps that in their
Right.
repertoire.
And Stars and Stripes Forever is always the final
Of course,
performance,
you
final
get
piece.
Sousa in there.
Right, got
Yeah,
to.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But our orchestra is open to everybody on whatever skill level they may be. We have no additions. Come and pick an instrument and try it any Monday night at 6:30 at the Monmouth Senior Center. Everyone's welcome to try.
A great plug. Super duper.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Glad to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you too. We'll be right back. And we're here now with Dirk Freymuth. Welcome, Dirk.
Thanks, Susan. Nice to be here.
Thanks for coming on the show. I'm so
course.
excited to have you on.
Thank you.
Well, you're a musician, and you've got a big concert coming up on
That's
Friday.
right.
You're one of the faculty members at Western. So what do you teach before we get to the concert?
Well, I teach a few different things. I was hired initially to kind of build up the audio production side of the music department. So I teach recording classes,
okay.
run the recording studio. I also direct the Early Music Ensemble, which is a group that plays mostly 16th and 17th century music, which is what I studied
That's
in school
yours.
myself. So it's an amazing coincidence that I'm able to do that here.
Is it a
also.
preferred music? Do you like Renaissance and
I
Baroque
love
music?
Renaissance and Baroque music, and you know, it was also such a treat when I came here that there had already been an ensemble in place, and the school owned instruments. They owned some of the owned viola da gambas and lute and harpsichord, and so we actually play it on the instruments that it was intended for. So it's really cool.
Did they have a recital last quarter in December? I look forward to the recitals, and I may have missed that one.
We play every term.
I missed it. Darn.
And actually, our for the last few years, our new home, well, it's not so new anymore, but our home for our performances is actually in the Hammersley Library foyer.
Oh,
so we
then,
do all our
okay.
concerts there now.
Yes.
And they're generally on Fridays of week 9 for anyone keeping score at home.
And how do you like the acoustics in that building?
It's better, you know. I mean, we used to play in Smith Hall, and Smith doesn't quite have enough reverberation for these instruments that we play, which are so quiet.
Yeah.
So they need all the help that they can get.
Yeah.
And the other benefit of playing in Hammersley is that the audience can be much closer to us.
You need to be closer.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
and that's how the music was intended to
Good.
be experienced anyway, not in a giant concert hall.
So your instrument of choice is the guitar?
Yeah.
Or any stringed instrument?
I consider myself a guitar player first and foremost.
Well, your promo picture, you look like a rock star. You know, you're wailing on the guitar. It looks good. So, what is your preferred music style?
Oh, you know, that's a really tricky question to answer. I mean, honestly, without trying to dodge the question, what I feel I've been so fortunate with as a professional musician over the past 25 years now is that I have been able to play in a whole different variety of genres and contexts at a fairly high level. I haven't really fully devoted myself to being the best player in one area, and sometimes that's something that I'm frustrated with. But
you're versatile.
And to be able to play, you know, Renaissance music with professional groups and rock music with professional groups, and so I don't really play much jazz anymore, but I used to play a lot of jazz. I play Brazilian music, obviously. I play Celtic music.
Yeah.
So for me, that the variety of it's really what has been the most rewarding.
So the Celtic music, I read in your bio that you have lived for a time in Dublin and
That's
London.
true, yeah.
So you got to be right in the thick of things.
Yeah. Actually, when I moved to Dublin, I was one of the first members in the Irish Baroque Orchestra.
Oh.
So that's why, specifically
Boy,
why I went
yeah.
there. I had just finished my master's in early music performance, so I was really focused on Renaissance and Baroque music almost exclusively at that point in my life. So when I went to Ireland, that's what I was doing. But I was already very, very interested in Celtic music.
Good.
And that's never left me. I mean, I would say that of all the genres that I've worked in and recorded and performed, that Celtic music, and especially Irish music, has been something that's always been very close to me. It's never sort of faded away and come back, like in some styles of music. You know, you're doing it for a while, and then when you stop doing it, you don't really think about it. But Celtic music has always just been right there with me.
It's like asking which is your favorite child. You know, I'm sure it's
well, I don't have any children, so
well, I know
that might be an easier question.
But it's easier, you know. You can't say as a mother, I can't say which is my favorite child. So you
Nor
probably
should
can't.
you.
No. Well, yeah. So you have lived in 9 places that I counted. You start out in Germany.
That's right.
You were born there
in
and
Germany.
moved.
Not to a military family either.
Okay.
I was, my parents were both German, and they got married very young. Well, I don't think it was considered that young at that time, but they were in their early 20s, and I came along right away, and they had already intended to immigrate to the United States, not with a child in tow, but then they had to, postpone their plans just by a year, and then we came over by boat, like true immigrants.
Wow!
And
so
we
you
came,
landed in New York,
right in New York. There was no Ellis Island anymore in New York, but I like to imagine a similar sort of scenario. And I have pictures of it, and it's actually I show the pictures in a American music history class that I teach, because we talk about immigration and the tradition of some of the great American songwriters were immigrants.
Right.
And so I get to show the picture of myself coming over on the boat.
This is a great American song. Oh, and you may recognize this one.
But we came to New York, and then we moved in New York, as I remember. You might know this early.
No, it just said Chicago and
right,
Denver.
Right, then we moved to Chicago, and then we moved to
Southern
Denver.
California?
Then we moved to LA, then we moved back to Chicago.
Oh.
And then I think by the time I was 7 or 8 years old, my mother just sort of put her foot down and said, we got to let this kid grow up someplace.
Yeah.
So then we went back to LA, and I grew up in the South Bay, Palos Verdes, until I left at 18.
So I'm from that area of the neck of the woods too. Ventura County, PV is out on the point, kind of. And Ventura County is up just maybe 45 minutes.
Yeah, Eric Rigler and I actually played at the Ventura Scottish Fest 2 years ago.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's where Rex and I are from. And when I ditched school, don't tell, I would head down to Palos Verdes area. Because POP was there, wasn't it? Or Pacific Ocean Park is kind of close by. Anyway. SC.
Yes.
And then Dublin, London.
And then back to school. Yeah, I lived in, I actually moved from London. When I left London, I was there for almost 5 years, and I moved to Minneapolis, which no one saw that coming.
Yeah.
And really Minneapolis became home. In many ways, it still does feel like home. I mean, I established my professional career mostly there. I just, so many of my dearest friends live there, and I go back all the time. I was back for 5 weeks this summer, and I love the place. So.
This summer being the operative word, not this winter.
I follow the weather in the winter, and then
Oh, it's nasty in the winter.
Had a rough couple of weeks.
Yeah, 20 years in Wisconsin, and I can bring the accent back. Can you bring the accent back?
Well, I never had it.
Oh, yeah, you betcha, don't you know? So tell us about the concert coming up.
Okay. Eric Rigler and I started this project together in 2014, and Eric actually, Eric and I went to junior high school together.
Oh, wow.
Which is, we weren't really friends in junior high school. We knew about each other. And then we went to different high schools, so I already knew. I mean, Eric's been playing the bagpipes since he was 7 years old.
Oh.
So we knew about this, this strange kid who plays the bagpipes,
Yeah.
and who's really serious and actually winning competitions and things. So he during high school would go back and study in Scotland, and I would hear about that, and then actually he moved to Scotland and lived there for on and off for almost 10 years. So we did some recording together on various projects starting about 10 or 12 years ago. That's when we kind of reconnected since high school. I knew who he was from what he had achieved professionally. He's on all these iconic film scores like Titanic and Braveheart and Road to Perdition and The Fugitive. I mean, so many, it's too many to count, literally. Sure. And he called me up in 2014, and he had an offer he was going to play with a different group at a Celtic music festival, and they asked if he could do something of his own. And so he called me and said, hey, what do you think about doing a collaborative project? Just really, let's just do this festival and see where it goes. And immediately we both had this idea of not just playing traditional music and fully acoustically, and he already has a reputation of, he plays in these rock bands and he has all this technology, like basically looks like an electric guitar rig that he runs all his bagpipes through. Wow. And I knew that, and I do a lot of electric guitar playing, really at that point mostly what I did. So we thought, why don't we do something that's more technological, more contemporary, get some looping pedals and effects stuff on it, and try to create these like more cinematic textures. And it's been great. And then over like the last year or so, we've started doing more and more. Really, in the past couple of years, we do concerts. We add one person, two people, and then in fact, the PBS special that we did last year was the largest ensemble to date. We actually had, that was a 5-piece group that did that. But that's not really practical to keep going. And actually the singer, who was phenomenal, Neely Kennedy, has moved back to Ireland, so that's not an option so much anymore. But we got a fantastic fiddler who's going to be with us on Friday, Kira Ott. And we did a run of Celtic Christmas concerts.
I saw
in
that
December with Kira, and the group sounds great, and it's a really fun.
This is going to be terrific.
Group of musicians to play with. Yeah, we're really excited about it.
I can't wait. Do you have anything you want to tell us about the season in general? We have a couple more concerts
we have
left
Gregoire
to go
Marais coming next week.
I wasn't sure how to pronounce that name. Gregoire Marais.
Yep, and then we have the 3 guitar players coming in the spring, and I'm going to forget all 3 of them. Well, I know it's Steve Cardenas, Vic Juris, and Nir Felder, who's actually Don Felder's son from the Eagles. Yeah, the famous Hotel guy who wrote Hotel California is his son, and he's a great player. So that's going to be a really good concert. And then we've got some things that we're pursuing for 2018-19, but I can't divulge that yet.
No, don't. We'll have you on the show just before you announce, so I can't wait.
That sounds good.
But you are stepping into another role here, so welcome, and it's going to pay off in good ways.
I hope so.
For you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Smith Fine Arts Series is a good one for everybody to attend. So we have a show coming up this Friday night and next Friday night. The date is the 12th of January
and the 19th.
19th. So be sure to get tickets. See this terrific guy in concert. Thanks for coming on, Dirk.
Thanks a lot, Susan.
What's good? And we're here with Kent Neely. Kent is with the theater department here at Western Oregon University. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you're coming. We're discussing the arts and music and theater, and We've got a great theater department.
Oh, it's really a point of pride for the university. And I say that because it's a smaller program, but because we're small, students get a lot of opportunities to participate in a variety of activities. There's a young woman who is doing props on one of the current productions who designed costumes a year ago and worked on lighting. Another young woman who is stage managing a current production did lighting before. And I think what's good about the faculty is they're not afraid to give these students responsibility. They rise to the occasion.
Yes.
They demonstrate that they've got an eagerness to learn. And the faculty are very good because there's, I think the students realize it's okay to fail. And that's how you learn. And
But every production I've seen has been A game, all the way. Just the lines they learn, the sets, the blocking, everything is fabulous, just very professional.
well, the production values for the shows we do here, I think are probably due to the fact that our faculty have all worked professionally.
Oh,
And so they bring a standard that they know is not just a college standard, but something that would work for a theater that is professional or semi-professional. And to do it, what's great, we have a wonderful facility.
yes.
And the creativity of the people involved. For example, the production that we did this fall, Radium Girls, was
Moving. Yeah, that was so good.
and it's, it was based upon a real situation with young women who were poisoned with radium, painting clock dials and watch dials in the early part of the 20th century. But parts of that set had been used a year previous. And so the creativity, Scott Grimm was the scene designer, and Ryan Wright is our technical director. They work fabulously together. And to take from a past production, repurpose it, and make it look new and
Yes.
interesting
Yeah.
is really good. And it's a great lesson for the students to see.
And that show that was last year was the one about the first woman executed? Or
Right.
That was also very deep and, it's amazing. The lines and the empathy you develop for the characters.
Yeah, that was Mackinac, written by a woman named Sophie Treadwell, and she was an investigative journalist and had found out about the story that is presented in Mackinac. But the director, Michael Phillips, he chooses some challenging works.
Yes.
He also did Cabaret. So he's quite competent in directing musicals and straight plays, as you saw. So the group that we have, both doing design work, whether it be scenery or costumes, Sandy Hedgepath does costumes, or directors. You know that we have this relationship in the summer with the Valley Shakespeare Company.
Right.
And David Genoviak is the artistic
Right.
director, directs there. David has worked professionally, gives another outlet for our students. They've done Shakespeare the last 3 summers. This summer they're doing Tartuffe.
Oh, really? Oh,
And
okay.
that'll be fun. All of the shows that they've done so far have been humorous comedies. But like you noted, with our regular season, students get a broader range of things to do.
Right. Well, I'm looking forward to February. We have a show coming called Watson, and a student will be directing that,
Yes.
Matthew Miller. And we couldn't get the schedule coordinated to have him on, but I wish you luck, Matthew. It's going to be a great show. I'm a mystery fan, so the whole thing sounds awesome.
It's The Curious Case of the Watson Intelligence, and it's time travel. There are 4 Watsons. There is Sherlock Holmes' assistant, Dr. Watson. There's Alexander Graham Bell's assistant, John Watson. There's the IBM supercomputer, Watson. And then there is a computer repairman, sort of electronic geek person named Watson.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
It should be great.
I think it'll be fun. The thing that's really important to note is this is an example where students are involved in a variety of levels. And Matthew has directed, not on the main stage, we consider this part of the main stage season, and he has a support group comprised both of faculty and students. I have to look at my dates. It's February 8th, 9th, and 10th at 7:30, and then a matinee on the 10th at 2 o'clock. So I know Matthew is knee-deep in working on the show.
Sure.
And I'm just very proud of the students who get to do that. And not every student who wants to direct at that level can. We certainly give a lot of opportunities for the students in the classroom level.
Right.
So this is really important for him.
Sure. That's going to be great. We have a March show, a musical.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a musical yet. Have I?
Well, I think you're going to be in for a treat.
Tell us the title.
The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. And,
Dolly Parton and
yes,
Burt Reynolds.
The musical is based upon a true story.
Oh, I didn't know.
There was a brothel near LaGrange, Texas, that had operated since the turn of the century. And it had operated and pretty much under the radar. The local sheriff got a lot of news about who the criminals were by going to the madam of the brothel and getting the latest news. And so they didn't close it. And during the Depression, there was less money to be had. So rather than paying for services with money, they paid with chickens. And consequently, it became known as the Chicken Ranch.
Oh, okay.
And then in the 70s, there were people in political positions who decided that this just wasn't the best thing for LaGrange, Texas. And they sort of made a backroom deal with a television investigative reporter to work to bring attention to it and shut it down. And so it finally closed, but makes for a fun night. It's the kind of thing that's better for mature audiences.
Sure, sure.
But there are elements, references to Texas football teams. There's a great song about the politicians doing the sidestep. So it'll be a fun show.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So will it be on the larger stage? Or?
It will.
Okay. Good.
Sharon Oberst, who is in dance, is directing. The last musical she directed was Thoroughly Modern Millie.
Before my time.
Yep. But Sharon is very good with the kind of musicals that are sort of the big standard musicals that you love. Yeah. She's going to be directing Solveig Holmquist, who is retired only a few years ago, will be the musical director.
Good.
And Ted DeChatelet from our faculty will be acting coach.
What fun.
Yeah.
That should be great. But that's not our last one. We have Les Vampires, or Vampire.
Very good.
Vampire.
And
Français.
It's an interesting, it takes place in France. We don't know a lot about it because it'll be finalized when the director comes on board.
Okay.
She's a guest. We've been fortunate to be able to bring guest artists in. Last year we had a guest, last fall, had a guest costume designer. It's great for the students to get a different perspective. And she will come in probably March to do auditions and then to begin to rehearse.
Good.
I want to make sure I get her name right. Jessica Wallenfels.
Okay. Okay. Well, we'll get more information on that as we get closer. That sounds like fun. But we have a great series coming, and then not to be outdone, the summer
That's
Tartuffe.
right.
So that should be fun. Tell me quickly about yourself. What brought you to Monmouth?
Well, it was a change of employment. I've worked in other states, other state universities, and it's been a really good move. I love the Pacific Northwest, so does my wife. And we lived previously in Idaho, Illinois, Minnesota, Michigan, and we both started out in Oklahoma.
Oklahoma. We'll have to do that musical
Yes,
someday.
yes.
I love that one. Thanks for coming on.
Oh,
Ken.
thank
It was
you,
great
Susan.
to have you.
I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Weren't they terrific guests? Boy, I've got my calendar marked with all these fun things coming up, and I hope you do too. You can see this show on the Wimpeg YouTube channel, MyNet, channel 718, and of course, the Polk Salad Bounty of Conversation Facebook page. Until next month, we'll see you around town. Thank you for joining